What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. So, guys, we had a couple of players who are already listed out for Sunday's game against the Las Vegas Raiders. And one of those we wanted to really talk about in particular, and that is former All Pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard. He apparently had a setback with his back in practice this week. And he is now going to be placed on the injury reserve, which means he will be out for at least the next 4 games. And the Colts could decide to leave him on there the rest of the year, probably depending on how the season is progressing. Evaluations will dictate how much more. He is currently getting more tests done today to really understand just how much worse it looks. Cody, this sucks, man, because, last game, he was coming in there. He looked like he was starting to look a little bit more like his former self, was really starting to get moving. And it seemed like this defense was about to be whole again. And sure enough, we hear another setback for Shaquille.
Yeah, it's just not been his year. I mean, let's just be honest. He's from the get-go, this hasn't been his year. He's been behind, pretty much the entire year, trying to play catch up. And so honestly, Derek, I know you tweeted it out, and I think I agree with you here. It might be just good with how the season is going right now, and I think the Colts will, like you said, kind of see it out. But maybe it's good for Shaq and his health moving forward to just maybe place him on that IR and let him go, especially if the season continues in this downward spiral it is. And honestly, Derek, with how well the linebackers are playing, Zaire Franklin, Bobby Okereke, EJ Speed, it's not like his presence obviously has been missed in the turnover department, but those guys have stepped up and they've been given another really good opportunity to really show what they have at linebacker. And so, yeah, it just sucks for him because obviously this defense is not the same without him out there. But if it means that next year and for the next 5 to 10 years, he's fully healthy, then I think it's worth, being overly cautious with him. I wasn't a big fan of when they kind of rushed him back at the beginning of the year. Just give him all the time he needs and then some more time, to get fully ready so that he doesn't have these re-aggravations, or we can do our best. Sometimes it happens, but, you can do our best as the team to make sure those don't happen again. So that's kind of hopefully, what happens here. We'll see. I mean, the next 4 games, certainly, but we'll see beyond that. I think, man, if the Colts still have 3 to 4 wins, in 4 weeks, I think maybe then, okay, yeah, what's the point in rushing him back out there? We're not contending for anything. So that'll probably dictate, but it just sucks for Shaq, man. I mean, we know the kind of competitor that he is. We know what he tries to do. We know how hard he prepares, how hard he plays, and the impact he is out there on that defense. And so, yeah, it definitely sucks for him this year, but hopefully now with that surgery and, if he can fully recover from this and everything, my hope is that he can come back in 2023 and be even better and be not behind the curve, if you know what I mean, trying to play catch up like he was this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the problem, right? He had this back surgery really late, and then it was really pushing him for time. And as much as, you want to see him come back, and it's clear that what he was trying to do, what he was trying to do physically, his body just wasn't in that situation right now. And I think it's a very smart idea of them to take this precaution. And it's 50-50 at this point whether they're going to keep him out the rest of the season. I think if if you're like 3 games, if you're like 4 games deep into this and you realize that you've only won like one of those games, then it's just not worth bringing like a franchise guy back onto the field for a losing team that's not going to accomplish anything. So it's probably in the best interest if they just have him out for the year. At the end of the day, I think it's one, it's going to depend on his health. Second, it's going to depend on the status of the team and how they look going through the rest of it. Because I mean, we know how it is. Shaquille wants to be out there every second that he can be, and I'm sure it's hurting him just as much as anyone to know that he's just physically incapable of doing that, and it really sucks. So, there will still be people that will minimize him, say that he's not worth it, and he's not doing anything for the team, even though this is the first time in his career that he's had something of this magnitude. I think it's the best thing for the Colts to try to just hold him off this year. Let him try to be better for 2023. Let him have that 9 months of time to be able to get his body right. It feels only necessary that a guy that you're paying so much money to have, it just seems like an illogical thing to rush him back out there this season.
Yeah, exactly. And, don't do basically what the team did with Andrew Luck, when he clearly shouldn't have been out there. They had him out there trying to save their jobs. At this point, like, I just feel like do the best interest for the player, right? Like, I think Frank Reich had said it before, like, save the player from themselves. Like, please do that in this case because you're paying this guy a lot of money to be your franchise guy for the next 5 to 10 years, right? You're paying him that kind of money. So don't potentially shorten his career or shorten his impact in kind of a lost season, honestly. Like it's not worth it, in my opinion, to potentially hinder his long-term success with the team. But I do kind of wonder, and I don't know if the Colts would do this, but do they kind of like have some, restructure negotiations with Shaquille after this season? I mean, I get it. Like, look what he's done. It's amazing. But also, like, at the same time, he wasn't really available this year, So I do wonder. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I do wonder if those conversations at least happen this offseason, just because of that. And also, you have some other linebackers who filled roles pretty well also. So I don't know how they'll do that. I mean, I think Shaquille at the time was definitely worth the money. But at the end of the day, man, if you're moving into getting a franchise quarterback this next offseason, you're going to probably cut ties with a couple guys. I don't know if you'll do that with Matt Ryan, but it's going to cost you something probably to get rid of a few of these vet players that have some contracts, right? So maybe Shaquille, maybe he takes a little bit of a pay cut. They restructure his deal, something like that to kind of help the team out. I don't know. That maybe there's just conversations that maybe will have to be had here in the offseason. If it's Ballard or if it's somebody else, kind of figuring that out. We'll see.
I think that for that negotiation, I think the problem that you'd have if you're Ballard there is you signed him knowing farewell that ankle was a problem, right? Like that he had an ankle problem and that, you signed him anyway, that he had a lingering injury and you didn't know what was going to happen in the meantime. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's on you. I would say that no, you don't cut his pay this year. I'd say next year, if he's fully healthy and then his play drops based on a physical level because physically he just can't do the same job anymore, then you start talking negotiations in that regard. But I mean, this was just a fluke thing. I mean, this is a very unfortunate part of the business. I just don't think that it's worth docking his pay already on something that, is just was out of his control a lot of ways. I mean, his body is just reacting the way that it is. So it'll be interesting, right, like you said, though.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if they will or if they won't, but yeah, I just wonder if, Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard will be like, hey, maybe we should think about approaching this, just with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build, and kind of I wouldn't say a full rebuild, but potentially a soft rebuild, this offseason. We'll see.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely sucks for Shaquille. I feel for him, man.
Absolutely.
That's awful.
It really does.
So hard.
There's very few guys on this team that I would, that I think hurts worse for this kind of situation than Shaquille, honestly, because, Shaquille is my favorite player and he's definitely one of the favorite players of this entire franchise. So hopefully, whatever recovery time he actually has, hopefully he comes back actually looking more like the maniac than what we remember. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Some of the other ones that were already scheduled out for this next game, Deion Jackson and Jelani Woods. So it'll be interesting to see as that time goes along who else is going to be out for Sunday's game and going further beyond. But let us know your thoughts, guys, on this Shaquille Leonard news. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.